and thank you for tuning in for this session here at San Jordi in New York City online. I'm Paige Anaya Morris, a writer and translator from Korean, and I'm so excited to join you all from Incheon, South Korea to introduce the next reading by Sang-young Park and his translator Anton Hur. Anglophone readers with even a passing familiarity with Korean literature in translation may be tuning in with a set of expectations about the work we're going to hear from today. If you're anticipating deep melancholia or moody noir, tightly controlled language and scenes steeped in ambiguity, then I think you will be very, and I hope pleasantly, surprised. I can say with confidence that none of the usual descriptors apply here. Here we have messy queer millennials getting busted lips in gay clubs, having one-night stands and full-on fallouts with lovers and loved ones alike. We will hear from a novel and novelist that dared to render Korean queer life in all of its complexity, humanity, and sheer absurdity, and earned massive critical and commercial acclaim from Korean readers in return. Sang-young Park's Love in the Big City is not the first Korean novel to feature a queer protagonist, but it is nonetheless a trailblazing work and a bellwether of the future of Korean literature. Sang-young Park's fresh and irreverent voice, expertly captured in Anton Hur's translation, represents some of the most exciting elements of Korean literature today. Humor, both profane and profound, the candor of a fiction writer drawing on truth, and of course, heart. So much heart that each sentence seems alive and on the verge of bursting. It's my honor to introduce to you the writer, the translator, and the novel you should all be reading, then reading again. Please enjoy an excerpt from Love in the Big City by Sang-young Park, translated from Korean by Anton Hur.
밤새 글을 쓰다 늦잠을 자버렸다. 대충 세수만 하고 가방을 들었다. 엄마는 아마도 짜증을 꾹꾹 눌러가며 병실에서 성경을 읽고 있을 터였다. 점심을 먹고 난 후 엄마와 함께 올림픽 공원을 산책하는 것이 일상이 된 지 오래였다. 계단을 내려오다 습관처럼 흘끗 우편함을 바라봤는데 서류 봉투가 꽂혀 있었다. 꺼내서 만져보니 두툼했다. 발신인의 이름은 적혀있지 않았다. 뭐지 하는 마음에 봉투를 뜯어보았다. 누렇게 바랜 종이 뭉치가 나왔다. 그것은 5년 전 그에게 던지듯 건넸던 나의 글, 일기였다. 나체로 전신거울 앞에 선 것 같은 기분으로 첫 장을 읽기 시작했다. 검은색 펜으로 휘갈겨 쓴 일기 위에 빨간 펜으로 교정 기우며 매끄럽지 못한 문장이 표시되어 있었다. 그러니까 그가 내가 쓴 일기의 교정지를 보내온 것이었다. 닷새도 아닌 5년 만에. 나는 종이 뭉치를 세게 쥐었다. 그에 대한 기억들이, 격렬한 감정들이 홍수처럼 쏟아져 들어왔다. 아직도 내 집 주소를 기억하고 있었단 말이야. 종이 뭉치의 마지막 장은 내가 아니라 그가 휘갈겨 쓴 쪽지였다. 그의 필체로 적힌 빨간 글씨들이 눌어붙은 핏자국처럼 느껴졌다. 오랜만입니다. 형이에요. 작가가 됐다는 소식을 들었습니다. 축하합니다. 원래 이름에 제자가 들어갔던 것 같은데 맞죠? 예명을 쓰나 봐요. 누굴 놀리나? 아무리 예전 일이라도 그렇지 1년도 넘게 만났던 사람의 이름조차 제대로 기억 못하다니. 살이 많이 쪄서 사진으로는 못 알아봤어요. 됐다. 2번 볼 것도 없다. 그냥 찢어버려야지. 그런데 다음 문장. 엄마 건강은 좀 괜찮으신지 모르겠네요. 그땐 미안했어요. 여러모로 다. 남자들은 도대체 왜 자꾸 내게 미안하다고 할까? 그냥 미안할 짓을 안 하면 될 일인데. 그는 여느 때처럼 일방적으로 자신의 용건을 늘어놓았다. 그가 몇 번이고 연락을 할까 했지만 아무래도 사정이 있어 하지 못했습니다. 그러다 시간이 훌쩍 흘렀고 당연히 전화번호가 바뀌어버렸더군요. 이렇게 갑자기 연락해서 미안합니다. 제가 일정이 빠듯해서 그럽니다. 월요일에 급하게 출국하게 됐어요. 아주 오랫동안 어쩌면 아예 안 돌아올지도 몰라요. 괜찮다면 이번 주 일요일 예전에 약속했던 시간에 약속했던 장소에서 만나요. 꼭 주고 싶은 게 있습니다. 쪽지의 마지막에 전화번호가 적혀 있었다. 일요일이면 이틀 뒤였다. 이 남자는 도대체 무슨 염치로 나에게 또 만나자고 하는 것일까? 주고 싶은 것 같은 소리하고 앉았네. 우리 사이에 더 주고받아야 할 건 욕밖에는 없었다. 서류 봉투째로 쓰레기통에 쳐넣고 싶은 마음과 누구의 손도 닿을 수 없는 곳에 소중히 보관해 놓고 싶다는 마음이 교차했다. 결국 서류 봉투를 가방에 집어넣었다. 길을 걷는데 심장이 빠르게 뛰는 게 느껴졌다. 그로 인해 이렇듯 격렬한 신체 반응이 일어난다는 사실이 소름 끼치게 자존심 상했다. 나는 핸드폰에 메모장 앱을 켰다. 그리고 한 문장을 적었다. 5년 전 나는 그를 엄마에게 소개하려 했었다. 다행히 아직 엄마는 코를 골며 자고 있었다. 점심을 먹고 곧장 골아떨어진 것 같았다. 나는 발소리를 죽여 보호자용 침대에 앉았다. 엄마의 입원이 장기화되자 병실에 엄마의 물건이 늘어나기 시작했다. 냉장고에 담긴 반찬통과 과일, 서랍 속 과도, 박하사탕 한 봉지, 침대 옆 협탁에 놓인 작은 액자 하나, 11살의 나와 39의 엄마가 나란히 찍힌 사진이었다. 사진 속 엄마는 학사모를 쓴 채 정체모를 동상 옆에 기대 서 있고 엄마 다리맡에 나는 데님으로 된 멜빵 바지를 입은 채 잔뜩 인상을 쓰고 있다. 그 무렵 찍힌 내 사진을 보면 모두 미간에 깊은 주름이 져 있다. 더러운 성격은 아마도 기질상의 문제인 것 같았다. 사진 옆에는 올해 출간된 내 책 2권이 놓여 있었다. 책은 병문안 온 손님을 위한 것이었고 정작 엄마는 내 책을 읽지 않았다. 그녀는 책뿐만 아니라 내가 쓴 글 모두를 강박에 가까울 만큼 철저히 읽지 않았는데 노안 때문에 글씨가 아지랑이처럼 너울거려서 못 보는 것이라고 말은 하지만 실은 다른 이유가 있다는 것을 잘 알고 있었다. 20살 때 대학신문에서 주최하는 문학상을 받은 적이 있다. 당선되면 100만 원의 장학금을 주는 대회였는데 마침 신문사에서 수습기자로 일하는 동기가 경쟁률이 낮다는 얘기를 해줬다. 언제나 술값이 모자랐던 그때의 나는 학력 콤플렉스가 심해 방송통신대에서 학사 학위를 2개나 따고 난 후 자식의 교육에 모든 것을 바치는 50대 여성의 이야기를 썼는데 그것이 당시에 내가 쓸 수 있는 가장 가까운 얘기였기 때문이었다. 던지듯 출품했던 내 첫 소설은 생동감 있는 인물 묘사가 돋보인다는 평을 들으며 당선됐다. 엄마는 어디선가 아마도 모든 소문의 원흉인 교회에서 그 소식을 주워 듣고는 내 당선작이 나온 대학신문을 구해다 읽었다. 그리고 사흘 밤낮을 울었다. 내 마음이 그렇게 아팠다니. 내가 그렇게도 너를 착취해 왔다니. 안방문을 넘어올 만큼 큰 소리로 통곡을 하는 그녀에게 엄마, 소설은 그냥 소설이야. 다 지어낸 거라고. 소리를 질러보았지만 들릴 턱이 없었고 그 후로 엄마는 내가 쓴 그 어떤 글도 심지어는 바닥에 떨어진 리포트나 메모조차도 읽지 않는 몸이 되었다. 명희가 네 책 재밌다더라. 지금까지 나온 건 죄다 사봤대. 걔가 우리 중에서 제일 똑똑하잖니? 숙대도 나왔고. 내 글 보더니 애가 아주 착하게 큰 것 같대. 지난 3년 동안 쓴 소설이라고 해봤자 술 먹고 물건을 훔치고 군대에서 개간을 하고 성매매를 하고 바람 피우는 사람들 얘기가 전부였는데 도대체 뭘 보고 착하다는 건지 2번만 착했다간 사람도 죽이겠네. 아무튼 교회 아줌마들의 립서비스는 알아줘야 했다. 네, 지금까지 제 소설 대도시의 사랑법 중 우럭한정 우주의 맛의 일부를 읽어드렸습니다. 여러분들 재밌게 들어주셨으면 좋겠고요. 박상영이었습니다.
Hello, I am Anton Hur, and I am the translator for Love in the Big City by Sang-Young Park. A bite of rockfish, taste the universe. I spent all night writing and overslept the next morning, so I only had time to splash my face with water and grab my work bag before heading out of the door. Amma would probably be reading her Bible, trying to suppress her irritation at having woken up in a hospital room yet again. I would see her in a few hours. We'd settled into a routine where she and I had lunch together before taking a walk in Olympic Park. On my way down the steps, I glanced at my letterbox out of habit and saw a manila folder stuffed into the opening. I took it out, feeling the thickness between my fingers. There was no return address. What the hell? I ripped it open. A ream of yellowed paper was inside. The writing I had more or less thrown in his face 5 years before. My diary. Feeling like I was standing naked in front of a mirror, I started to read the first page. There were red editorial marks over the black letters of my whip-like writing, and underlining that, marked awkward expressions. In other words, the bastard had sent me an edit of my diary. Not 5 days after receiving it, but 5 years! My fingers gripped the paper as memories of him poured into me like a violent flood. He still remembered my address. The writing on the last page was not my rapid scrawl, but a note in his handwriting. It looked as though it was written in blood. Hello, it's Hyung. I heard you've become a writer. Congratulations! I thought your real name had a J in it, am I right? You must be using a pseudonym. This idiot! He couldn't even remember the name of someone he'd gone out with for over a year. You've gained so much weight that I didn't recognize you at first. Fuck it, I've read enough. Tear this shit up. But then, the next sentence. I wonder if your mother's doing better now. I'm sorry about before. About a lot of things. All of it. Why do men always apologize to me? Just don't do the thing that will make you apologize in the first place. Then, just like he always did, he went on talking about himself. I thought of contacting you many times in the past, but I had my own reasons not to. Then, too much time passed, and you changed your phone number, as one does. I apologize for contacting you all of a sudden. I was just so busy. I'm leaving the country on Monday. For a long time. I might not come back. If it is all right, I would like to see you this Sunday. The same place and time we promised as before. There's something I would very much like to give to you. He included his phone number at the end. Sunday, that was in 2 days. A little presumptuous of him to ask for a meeting at all, much less with such short notice. And forget this giving me something crap. All we had left to exchange were insults. I was torn between wanting to shove the envelope and its contents into the trash and putting it carefully away somewhere. No one would ever find it. In the end, I stuffed it into my bag. My heart was racing as I walked down the street. I was shocked and humiliated that he could still provoke such a visceral response from me. I took out my phone, opened the Notepad app, where I started story drafts, and typed a single sentence. 5 years ago, I tried to introduce him to my mother. Thankfully, my mother was still asleep, snoring. She must have dozed off right after lunch. I quietly stepped inside, slid the caregiver bed out from underneath hers, and sat down. Omma's things began to multiply in the hospital room as she kept extending her stay. Side dishes and fruit in the fridge, a fruit knife in a drawer, a bag of peppermint candies, a little picture frame on the nightstand. The picture was of me at 10 and her at 38. Omma wore the cap from a graduation gown and stood next to some statue, and I stood next to her wearing denim overalls and a sour expression. Every photo of me from around that time has me frowning. Maybe I was born with a shitty attitude. Next to the photo were copies of the 2 books I had published this year. They were for visitors. Amma never read my books. In fact, she'd never read a single word I'd published. A denial that bordered on the obsessive. She claimed it was because her aging eyes made every letter look like a tiger about to pounce, but I knew there was a different reason. When I was 19, I won a literary prize given out by a college newspaper. The winner could get $1.1 million in scholarship money, and a friend who was on staff happened to pass on to me that there were very few applicants that year. I was always short on money for drinks, so I wrote about a woman in her 50s who had always had an inferiority complex about her education, who went on to get 2 bachelor's degrees at an online university and threw everything she had into her son's education. It was the only story I could write at the time, and the judges declared it the winner on the strength of its dynamic rendering of its main character. Amma heard the news, from her church, no doubt, the source of all evil rumor in this world, got a copy of the paper, and read the story. Then she cried for 4 days straight. I could hear her sobs and lamentations through her bedroom door. I can't believe I hurt you so much. I can't believe I exploited you like that. Amma, for God's sake, fiction is just fiction. It's all made up. She refused to listen to me, and from then on avoided anything I wrote, even notes or school reports that I dropped on the living room floor. Myung-hee loved your book. She said she's read everything you've published so far. You know she's the smartest of all my friends. A Sukde grad, no less. She said your writing made her think you'd grown up into a very fine young man. The fiction I'd put out over the past 3 years was all about getting drunk, stealing things, illegally committing homosexual acts in the military, prostitution, cheating on boyfriends. What on earth was in there to cast the author as a fine young man? If he were any finer, he'd murder someone. In any case, you had to hand it to the church ladies. They really were consummate spin doctors. Thank you so much.